what do we think of the Chibnall era so far? Like, prior to Series 13.
We're gonna have this conversation, all right? Okay.
I feel like it's important, like it's a ritual.
Okay, I think I think you might be right.
It's almost like a taboo subject at this point. It's just literally, you'll be, because, we Doctor Who fans always do. We got our striped scarves on, just walking down the street, and this sagely old man's like, so, what do you think of Jodie Whittaker?
To be fair, you've 100% called me out. I was up central London yesterday, and I was wearing my Peter Capaldi coat. So
there it is.
I've been well and truly called out.
I mean, he's a fashion icon, isn't he, Peter Capaldi's Doctor?
I just fell in love with that coat as soon as like the first promo pic of the 12th Doctor came out. I just the red lining just lovely.
See,
lovely.
that's the problem. Is I was wearing my rainbow shirt and my big grey long hoodie thing, and someone called the cops on me.
That's how they get you, man. That's how they get you.
They're like, why are you dressed like a fucking predator?
Exactly, yeah. In seriousness, Doctor Who is my favourite show. It always has been, and no matter what happens to it, I'm always going to watch this show. So my mindset is I might as well try and enjoy it, even when like everybody has their least favourite era of the show. I know a lot of people that don't like Peter Capaldi's era. Some people don't like Matt Smith's. There are even dozens of people that don't like Tennant's era. But yeah,
It's always fun introducing someone to Doctor Who, and you're just like, look, just try and enjoy it, okay?
Just try it, yeah. Just and they say to you, but it's your favourite show, shouldn't it be good? And I'm like, oh yeah, but it's not that
Look,
simple.
Listen, it's not good in a conventional sense, okay?
Yeah, but yeah, basically, this era has not been for me personally. I don't really feel like I've connected with the Doctor or her companions or just kind of a lot of the characters in general. I think the worst offense, in my opinion, has just been that it's not left me wanting more. An episode doesn't end and I think, oh, I need to see what happens next. It's just kind of, I watch it because it's Doctor Who, but then I'm also like, that was a bit of a waste of 50 minutes,
I find with this run, I regularly find myself being like, okay, there we go, we got the right idea, now we just need to do that, but good.
Yeah, exactly, and, this era definitely has its positives. One thing that I personally feel Chibnall has done very well is writing for returning villains. Season 11 was my least favourite series of the show. I found it to be a very boring series and the villains not particularly memorable. But I feel that as soon as Chibnall started writing for the Daleks and the Master and the Cybermen, I feel like he has a good understanding for those characters. And so even if the episodes that they're in aren't great, I feel like most people might agree that those characters are at least written well and very in character for them,
I mean, Series 11, yeah, it was definitely a tepid start. Like, there wasn't any good villains in Series 11 to my knowledge. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't seen the entire thing when it comes to Series 11. It's the one.
But what about Tim Sher?
Oh my god! Like, yeah, he was the villain of the first episode, and if I'm not mistaken, they bring him back for the finale as well. It's like
he is the finale villain.
Oh man, it's like what status?
Oh.
But yeah, no, didn't like Series 11 at all, to be honest. I watched Doctor Who for the villains. The villains are always my favourite part of the show.
Agreed.
And, yeah, that just wasn't it in Series 11. And yeah, as you say, I think he did a good job at writing the Master, but also, like, if we look at, like, for example, Ashad, isolated from the Cybermen, he's a really good character. Loved Ashad. Also, like, yeah, I think moving over into Season 13, we started to get a bit of a mix of, like, Chibnall's own villains plus the classic villains in there as well. And I'll be honest, I think, like, Chibnall's own contributions in Series 13 were much better. It makes me wonder if, like, Series 11 was just kind of, scratching the surface, but, like, after that you kind of realize, okay, we need to kind of go a bit further with this.
Yeah.
Like, it does feel experimental, but I feel like there's definitely more that could have been done in Series 11 to make those villains a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I agree completely. And getting a little bit ahead of myself here, I'm just going to come out and say that I think that season 13, the Flux was just like easily Chibnall's best series. Like, in my opinion, like, I really feel like he kind of found his groove in terms of just, you know, and that's actually when we heard that the format of Doctor Who would be significantly changed when Chibnall came along. I was expecting a series like Flux, where it's just an ongoing story, because that's the kind of writing Chibnall was used to from doing stuff like Broadchurch. You know, I thought that's what we were going to be getting, and it's, yeah. I'm also fascinated because Series 11 was obviously, I guess, an easy stepping on point for someone that hadn't watched Doctor Who before. There is, besides a few references, there's very little connecting it to what's come before. So I'm genuinely curious how some viewers must have felt when, like, Series 12 and 13 came along, because all of a sudden you've got classic villains returning and references to the new series. Like,
well, like, yeah, they're getting deep into the lore of the show as well. Like, they're kind of
exactly
exploring the potential Cartmel master plan kind of stuff as well. Like,
exactly. And I didn't realize this until someone mentioned it, like, yesterday, but I believe the word Time Lord isn't mentioned once in Series 11, which is just nuts to me. But yeah, I could believe it, because there's so little connecting it to the rest of the show, and I think that's why I was so against it at first. But I was saying to you earlier that I have a bit of a bias towards Resolution, because it was the first of Jodie's run where I actually had quite a good time, and I think that was in massive part just because of the Dalek, having this returning villain and also being written, like, pretty well as well.
I mean, it was also the first time we got a good villain in the Jodie Whittaker run as well. Like, because there was nothing. I'm sorry, there was nothing in Series 11.
Hang on, I feel like you're sleeping on the Pating right now.
Does the Pating even... Is the Pating even evil, though? Like, is that even a villain?
No,
it's
not
more
really.
just like an obstacle, isn't it? It's just Nibbler from Futurama.
I mean, he's in space jail in Revolution of the Daleks. So...
Oh, yeah, so he must... Well, I mean, he committed piracy, didn't he? So, like...
Yeah.
He committed tax fraud. But yeah, no, fucking... Yeah, Doctor Who is shit, but like...
Should we just have that as the intro of the video? Just Doctor Who is shit, roll intro credits.
My overall opinions of, like, the Chibnall era is I think there was a lot that was kind of moving in the right direction, but, like, I thought Series 12 was a notable improvement over Series 11. Like, I appreciate that he wanted to make Series 11 feel like something standalone, and I think that was a smart move. Series 12, though, it had the momentum back. Like, it had that feeling of, like, Doctor Who back again. Like,
it did, and it was the first time in Jodie's era that, like, when Episode 2 ended, you know, it ended with the cliffhanger of Gallifrey being destroyed. That left me desperately wanting to know what happened next, and that was the first time that I'd felt that way in the Chibnall era. And so...
I'll say this, though. If it wasn't for Sacha Dhawan, Series 12 would have been shit. Like, he carried that entire thing.
It would have been shit. I think Sacha is easily one of the best things to come from this era, and I am very excited that he is... I think it's more or less confirmed that he is going to be back in the specials.
They definitely seem to touch on it. Like, at the end of the last episode, they were like, oh, and your master who is quite mastery and does master things... The master of your fate.
And Jodie's like, I know a master.
Wait, what do you mean by master?
But yeah, so
what do we think of Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor?
Oh wow, this is when people leave the video potentially.
Yeah, like, tread carefully, you know. I mean, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't actually have any issues with, like, diversity in entertainment or anything like that. In fact, I think it's a really good thing that they're, you know, opening careers for, you know, different demographics that have previously been kind of let down by the film and TV industry. I think that's a really good thing. I'll say this, though. There is definitely a difference between doing diversity properly and actually, you know, being inclusive with your script and doing it for piss points. And I think the ultimate indication of that is Joe Martin's Doctor Who. Now, I think she plays the role fantastically.
Me too.
She should be the Doctor.
It's so funny that, and kind of sad that in the Fugitive of the Jadoon, I was just watching it thinking, how is Jo Martin out-acting the lead in the show right now?
Exactly! She's perfect in the role, but it's also just the optics of... Like, the BBC were literally getting all the piss points they could. Like, on like, BBC News and stuff, they were hailing, you know, the first Black Doctor is breaking boundaries. It's like, yeah, but is she the main character, though? Like, why is she not the Doctor? Why is she... not the main Doctor?
Exactly.
Like, why is she a side character? She gets demoted to Reflection in season 13. I'm just like, how is this happening in 2021? Like, fuck me.
I was gonna say, I feel like it does the opposite of what it's setting out to do. It wants to be more diverse.
100%.
Except in a way, I'm like, it's almost kind of disrespectful, I think, because, like, I'm sure you've seen, whenever the BBC posts, like, artwork of, like, all the Doctors, and you know, whenever there's attractions, like, you know, there's that Doctor Who Time Fracture going on right now.
Right, yeah.
And Jo Martin features in that. And I'm just a bit like, I'm not being funny, but we don't know who she is.
We haven't, yeah, we need more of her, and it's one of those things where I kind of almost wish that Chris Chibnall had stuck around for another series. Good joke. But, like,
Yeah.
I kind of wish that, so that we could have actually had more of Jo Martin, because I get the feeling that Russell T Davies is going to want a fully clean slate when he jumps in, like the showrunners often do.
I think it's pretty likely, yeah.
Yeah, I really would love to have seen a season of Jo Martin's Doctor, because she did a phenomenal job in the acting department. And just like Who Chaser, Dom, he did a fantastic video on like how appalling the optics of the first Black Doctor being a side character who is referred to as the Fugitive and rocks up with a massive gun is. Like, that's in, you know, like...
It's nuts to me that no one at the BBC thought
they needed
about
to calculate this.
Yeah, like, it's you know, back in the day, I used to think that it would be blasphemous to even consider selling Doctor Who to, you know, HBO
Any other
or
studio,
or Netflix.
but, like...
But nowadays, my mindset is, could they really do a worse job?
I mean, have you heard that, like, the BBC don't allow certain employees to, like, LGBTQ pride events and stuff?
What?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole thing with that. Like, they are very regressive in, like, their company politics and stuff. And that's what I kind of say when I say, like, stuff like this kind of comes across as they're just looking for piss points when it comes to, like, their diversity and inclusion strategy. Is, like, I feel like you need to follow it up from the top down, though. You need to have a much better sense of company politics.
Yeah, it is. It's such an act, isn't it? And it really annoys me.
It's very performative. So, like, I'm not one of those people that's going to go, oh, this is woke SJW pandering every time I see a female on screen. But, like... I do think that the BBC needs a reform, because, like, this is all very performative, and I think the fact that the BBC aren't actually producing the Russell T Davies second era of Doctor Who, and that it's Bad Wolf TV, I think that's going to make a world of difference. I think they're going to get the diversity right. It's going to be a lot better.
Oh, man, I hope so. But we're going back to your question, though. You asked, what do I think of Jodie Whittaker?
This is brilliant, isn't it? Isn't it amazing how we had that question and we talked about Jo Martin?
How do we get there?
Because Jo Martin is the most notable Doctor of the Jodie Whittaker era.
Oh my god. What's happened to the show? But I'm going to speak my mind, my opinion, and I hope people won't hate me for it. I have seen Jodie in a few other things. I've seen her in Black Mirror, and I have seen a few bits and pieces of Broadchurch, and she seemed very good in those things. But I just think she was miscast for the Doctor. Like, whenever she's speaking on screen, I'm not buying it. It feels like it's just being read straight from the script. And I've got to be honest with you, I just find her really cheesy to watch.
Yeah, like, the problem with it is, I mean, the writing of the 13th Doctor is not good. Like, they have not got a clearly defined character there. People often say, oh, it's quite similar to Peter Davison, though, in that Peter Davison had quite a flat character arc, following up, like, the very eccentric Tom Baker, and, you know, then you'd have Colin Baker afterwards that would be returning to that cantankerous Doctor.
Yeah.
But, like, the thing I would say there is, I mean, Peter Davison's Doctor, he still had a clear-cut character. Like, in any given moment, you'd kind of have some idea of how he's going to react to certain situations. With 13,
he was the most human of the Doctors, I think. That's what most people seem to agree on with Peter Davidson's Doctor.
With 13, she's either going to shove jelly and ice cream into her eyes, or she's going to be a bitch, and I just have no fucking clue.
Yeah. It's like one example that I had from actually the first episode of Flux is towards the end of the episode when, you know, she like smacks open the TARDIS and there's some kind of vortex energy that goes into it, and rather than just doing that, she has to scream at the Flux, you know, "Flux, see what vortex energy does to you."
Well, it's because they have to explain it, because their idea...
That's what I sounded like when I used to play Doctor Who in the playground.
This is the thing, though, is like it's not actually helped by Jodie Whittaker's performance either. Oh, no disrespect to her as an actress. I mean, I haven't seen her in much else, but unfortunately, her performance as the 13th Doctor doesn't give me the best indication. I feel like she sounds like she's talking to children every time she opens her mouth in this show. I don't get that from interviews with her. In interviews, when she's talking normal, she's absolutely fine, and I get the feeling that's probably what she's more like in other roles. When she's the Doctor, she suddenly puts on this almost like primary school teacher kind of mannerism and stuff, and I don't care for it. It feels like she's talking down to the audience, and like, because almost everything she says is some form of exposition, it also ends up feeling that much more patronizing, like we're being talked down to as an audience. I don't like that stuff. Also, she just does not shut the fuck up.
Oh,
I mean,
no, she doesn't.
That's the script. That's the script's fault, not hers, but like...
It's such an exposition, like, heavy period of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I have you actually heard this recent interview with Matt Smith regarding, like, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who and everything?
No, I haven't.
It's really fucking funny. I know he doesn't intend for it to come across this comedically, but I find it hilarious. Basically, he was asked, you know, what do you think of Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall and stuff? And his answer was, to tell the truth, I haven't watched Doctor Who in a long time. But I think they're doing a great job. It's nice to see that they're carrying on its legacy. But he quickly changed the subject to, Russell T Davies is coming back.
Oh.
I'm really excited for that. I think, you know, the show's in the right hands. This is the man who brought it back. And I think, you know, he's, you know, the one man for the job. What I find so funny about this is his answer comes across as, oh yeah, I haven't seen that. But hey, Russell T Davies is coming back, right?
He sounds like the fandom right now.
That is what the fandom is like. And I'm going to say this. Another point against the BBC's mismanagement of this show is the fact that they announced the Russell T Davies return before Flux aired. That was the most sabotaging move they could have done to Doctor Who Flux.
It really was, but I feel like since that announcement, it's kind of... I hadn't fully fallen out of Doctor Who, but ever since that announcement, I've kind of been thinking to myself, no matter what happens during Flux or the specials next year, there is hope for the future of this show, and I feel like I've been latching onto that, you know. The
announcement of RTD2 has basically made the apathetic towards the Whittaker era more apathetic towards it. Like, as opposed, like, they should have really taken time to hype up Doctor Who Flux as, like, a paradigm shift for storytelling in the modern era of Doctor Who. Because the truth be told, I think they made the right move in making it serialized again. Like, I was much more inclined to tune in. Like, Doctor Who Flux is the first time since Series 8 that I have consistently tuned in each week and watched Doctor Who on the night it's broadcast.
Same.
I haven't done that since Capaldi's first season.
Same here, and Flux, it kept me on the edge of my seat. Every single episode, it left me wanting more. And you know when you feel like the episode's about to end, you know, pressure is rising and the music and everything.
Yeah, and you get the cliffhanger.
Yeah, you get the cliffhanger, and I'm sat there thinking, no, don't end. And,
yeah, I had that, yeah.
And it's been really great to feel that way again, you know, and it's why it's a shame that Chibnall can't have like a few more seasons in this style. You know,
unfortunately, I feel like this style was used more as a crutch than it was anything else. Like, there was a lot of hooks in there to get you watching and to get you paying attention. But I feel what it amounted to was insufficient. We'll go more into that later. But, like, this is a problem with the Chibnall era on a whole. The ideas are there. They all need to be workshopped better. The way Chibnall has kind of made a more, modern, forward-thinking, diverse take on Doctor Who, great. You need to workshop it better, though. For example, the Ruth Doctor, the Secret Doctor, needs to be workshopped better. You cannot have the optics of celebrating the first POC Doctor while having her rock up with a fat gun and calling her Fugitive.
Yeah.
You can't fucking do that.
But they did. They did that.
Yeah, I do not know how they could ignore that. And like, then there's also like the serialized format. It needs another pass. It needs another pass in the writers' room, and just like the whole idea of making a season of just nothing but original villains and making it kind of detached from Doctor Who history to make it a good jumping on point. Smart idea. Needs to be workshopped better. Redefining the Doctor's origins. Smart idea. Because I think Doctor Who has really buckled under the weight of its over 50-year history recently.
Yeah.
So the idea of wiping the board clean and going from, part one again, really good idea, needed to be better workshopped. That's all the problems here is. The ideas are down, the quality isn't. And I think that is the biggest issue with the Chibnall era.
Exactly. And whilst I do agree about, it coming from a good place, giving the Doctor a fresh origin story, I can't help but feel it was a slightly selfish decision on Chibnall's part, because both Russell and Moffat, obviously they both had their big ideas, and occasionally there was the odd retcon. Obviously, Moffat introduced the crack in time, which kind of sort of erased the Russell era. It's weird. It's like some people remember some things and other people don't remember anything. Like, Dan doesn't know who the Sontarans are, and Amy didn't know who the Daleks were, and stuff like that. And then later on he went on to retcon the Time War, as we say. But it wasn't anything which I felt was too... It wasn't too impactful.
I'm not going to lie. I found Moffat's retcons to be just as egregious. The main difference is I'm older when I'm receiving the Chibnall era retcons. I'm worn down and I'm just like, yeah, f*** it, why not? It's fiction. Whereas during the Moffat era, I was really upset about this stuff because I was still quite young. I was a big Doctor Who fan. Like, when they, did Big Bang 2, I didn't quite realize the ramifications until later on, but I wasn't feeling good about it. The whole hybrid thing, the whole thing of the Doctor leaves Gallifrey because he's afraid of a hybrid creature, as opposed to, society. that rubbed me up the wrong way, as did Clara helping him pick out the TARDIS and reading him a bedtime story and all that shit.
That is true.
There was a lot there that really rubbed me up the wrong way.
It was very egotistical, a lot of those things, but kind of, I guess the point I was trying to make was that there have been better writers than Chibnall before, and they had complete control. Russell T Davies, he could have written an origin story for the Doctor. He could have retconned everything we'd seen before, and he could have written a brand new, fresh origin story, but he didn't. He used his powers for good.
I'm personally of the belief that it's okay. Like, I think the writers should have those opportunities to redefine parts of Doctor Who lore. However, like, it has to be done well. Exactly, I understand the argument that it's, a selfish move. But personally, I think it's in their hands. They should be able to reinterpret it. I just want it to be done well. Like, and there's an abundance of things that I can pick apart with The Timeless Child and all that stuff. But, like, overall, I appreciated what it represented. Like, it's a new chapter.
Yeah, I do agree with you that, after 50 years and so much convoluted storytelling, maybe this was a good time to introduce, a new origin story for the Doctor. But it's like, you know how in the past, when a new writer takes over from the last one, they don't straight up retcon what came before, but they kind of just ignore it. I don't know how Russell is going to be able to ignore this, because it's just such a big deal.
There is no easy way of doing this. Like, there is no way that everyone will be satisfied by the Timeless Child arc going forward. However, what I'll say is this. I personally would be quite happy to return to original continuity, but I don't think that serves the narrative well. I think, I feel like the more likely thing is that, there'll be workarounds, they'll work around it, don't mention the Doctor's origins too much and stuff, just kind of leave it, it's the past and everything.
Yeah.
But, so maybe you don't have to talk about, oh yeah, just ran away from Gallifrey, 13 Doctors and all that. Don't even mention it. But, the thing is, I feel that if they carry on with the Timeless Child, it's going to cast a bit of a shadow over Doctor Who continuity, because there's still so many questions to be answered, and it is a very weird version of the Doctor's origins. Then again, if you just walk that back, then it was pointless. And I think what's best for the narrative is to continue with Doctor Who as is, with the Timeless Child being the Doctor's origin now. That's what's best for the narrative. And I think they should do what is best for the narrative and not necessarily what is best for the fans.
I completely agree. I was talking about selfish decisions earlier on. If they were to erase the Timeless Child, then sure, I feel like whilst fans would think that they're happy about that, they may also realise that that would render the last 3 seasons of content that they've watched completely irrelevant and therefore a waste of time. And
I want them to let it play out. I want to see solutions and such to the Timeless Child arc. But, I think, Chris Chibnall needs to use the time that he's got to elaborate further on what any of this means. Because just being vague about it, you can't just do a massive paradigm shift in the show and then not actually define its consequences. You can't just say, oh, it doesn't matter, because then why even do it in the first place?
Exactly, and that's kind of an issue I had with the episode, the Series 12 finale, Timeless Child, because the Fugitive Doctor basically just says to the Doctor, this doesn't change who you are, just keep being the person you are. And I also think that, as you said earlier, it's a good idea, but it doesn't done well, because rather than exploring this idea in an interesting way from both a storytelling and visual perspective, they just had the Master just tell the Doctor a story. And I think...
it was a PowerPoint presentation.
It was a PowerPoint presentation. And I'm like, there had to be... If you had to do such a massive retcon / new origin story, surely you'd want to do that properly, because again, it's one, from a narrative perspective, it's one of the most significant things to have happened in Doctor Who, whether people like it or not.
Absolutely. Well, with that kind of being said then, I think we've definitely established and laid down the kind of groundwork for our overall opinions on this run of Doctor Who.
Yeah, we don't like it.